Hello and welcome to A Star to Steer Her By, a Star Trek podcast.
Woo! Shit, that was early.
No! That's okay, Ames. It happens to lots of guys. We are here today for episode 71 of the podcast.
Woo! There it is.
That was really good. My name is Caitlin, and with me today, as always, are...
I am the passion, the love, the libido, the throbbing erection. I am Jake.
I am the poet, and I didn't even know it.
That's good.
And I look good in a beret. This is Chris.
I am the... Nope, I got fucking nothing.
She's like the balance between
She was
the two
basically
or
the
something.
superego?
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
a superego.
I am the jigsaw puzzle that holds us all together.
There we go.
This is Ames.
Very nice, guys. That was really good. So today we're here to talk about 2 Next Generation episodes. Season 2, Episode 5, Loud as a Whisper, and Season 2, Episode 6, The Schizoid Man. In Loud as a Whisper, the Enterprise crew finds themselves going to visit Riva, who is a deaf mediator who speaks through a chorus of 3 people who he has had with him for many years and who speak his thoughts. Each of them has a separate function. They're basically the ego, the id, and the superego, as just demonstrated by Jake, Chris, and Ames. They are going to... I don't even know where they're going.
Soleus 5.
Okay. They're going to Soleus 5, where a bunch of people are having like a civil war on the planet, and they want him to come and mediate for them. But when he gets down to the planet, one of the ambassadors of one of the sides of people turns traitor and kills his chorus. He is devastated. He is emotional. He is feeling hopeless and freaking the fuck out.
And he can't talk about it with anybody.
He can't talk about it until Data goes and learns sign language? ? And between Data speaking sign language and Troy being an empath, don't you know, she's able to convince him that even though these people did him wrong, he has to find it within himself to help them to solve their civil war.
Well, also it's finding his own confidence, right?
It's true.
It's not that he's not mad at them; he's mad at himself.
Well, he's mad that they killed his friends, though.
I think he blames himself though. He feels like he failed.
Yeah, he said I was cocky and went down there without thinking it could be bad. And
Doing a William Hartnell pose, holding my jacket.
He was a good jacket hold.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a sexy subplot where he and Troy almost get to the bone zone, and Caitlin had a huge lady boner throughout because that man had swag. That's basically the whole episode. It was really good. We'll talk about it. I really liked it. The Schizoid Man, as hot as Loud as a Whisper was, the Schizoid Man was as creepily predatory.
I found Data as hot as usual. So.
Obviously, but I mean... Okay, so Dr. Ira Graves, he's an old bastard with awful teeth, and he's been working on figuring out a way to fuse mankind with machine. And he's got like a 21-year-old lab assistant who he wants to fuck like crazy, but who he never made a move on because she was like, a tenth of his age.
Well, and even he recognized that was kind of fucked up.
Yeah, but he doesn't think it's so fucked up that he shouldn't take over Data's body and pursue her that way.
He has some morality, but then it falls to pieces.
And basically, so he does exactly that. He, tricks Data into, telling him where his no-no button is, and he turns him off. And then when he turns him back on again, he's inside of him.
That turned him back on again.
Are we still doing phrasing? Anyway, Dr. Graves is now in Data's body, and he's disrespecting the captain and creepily hitting on the 21-year-old. She's not, I don't really know that she's 21, but she looked young as shit, and it was gross.
He's rude to Wesley, which was hilarious.
Yeah, he called him boy. He jumps into Data's body, and he's, hitting on his little assistant. She kind of, rejects him and rejects the idea of becoming a machine to be with him, and he accidentally breaks her fucking hand, and then he, knocks a couple people out in engineering, all mistakes. Then he fucking bitch slaps Picard into a prolonged loss of consciousness and realizes, oh my god, how many more accidents will there be? Ugh! And expunges himself from Data's body. And then Data's all like, the fuck am I doing on the floor with you people standing over me? What's going on? And they're like,
party did I miss?
Oh, Data, you're fine. Did we tell you that you drew dicks on everybody's faces? What a jerk you were. Ha ha ha. And that was the end of the episode. So that's basically it. I think that's probably the most succinct I've ever been in my explanations of episodes.
I also feel like these episodes didn't have like a zillion and a half side plots.
Yeah, there weren't like lots of side
God.
plots. It was nice. There were just A plots. I really liked Loud as a Whisper.
I really
Go
like both
on.
of these episodes.
We have a recurrent theme this week. Beards. Magnificent, magnificent beards.
That's true. What was the mediator's name?
Riva.
Yeah, he had a beard and like one of those coif. He had a real look going there.
Yeah, it was very young. What's his name?
I don't know.
Guy that sang Danger Zone. Kenny Loggins.
Loggins?
How does Danger Zone go?
Highway to the danger zone!
It's not that high, but
Whatever.
but I'll go with it.
Mostly I know it from Archer, so...
I
like,
choose to believe it's that high.
Yeah, it is. It's that high.
It's a little slower though.
I went to the danger zone.
Sound a little bit like Ricky Gervais in The Office when he does the horrible dance. Okay.
Did Kenny Loggins also do the one that was take it to the limit?
That I don't know.
It's not really that high, Jake.
That part is though. It's like background singers.
Riva certainly had a look going on with that. With the, it's hard to tell where his coif ended and his beard began.
Who cares? He was dreamy.
He just had eyes peeking out of hair.
Basically, yeah.
At first I was like, oh, what's up with this guy? And then I was like, oh, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I was into it. I don't know. I really liked the scenes with Troy, which is something I never thought I'd say.
Yeah.
I liked the scenes with Troy. But, like, I liked the way... First of all, I loved how his boner chorus member was, like, extremely bonerly. Like, I think that was... At first, I was kind of like, what's up with that? And then when they were alone together and having dinner, I was just kind of like, okay, this is kind of nice. And then when he left, and they were, like, having nice conversation, and he was, like... communicating without words, and she was picking it up, and the two of them were getting, close because they both had this kind of like this emotional connection. I don't know, guys.
They knew they were going to bang because all the mediators were out of the room, and it's like, well, we know the one common language.
Yeah, that was funny.
Oh
That first he ditches Superego and Beret, and then
they're
he
like,
ditches
yep.
Boner Guy.
And they say, like, well, we know that we're not needed, so we're just going to hang out on the bridge, I guess.
Well, and the best thing, this was what won me over when he was like, they'll only be necessary until we like find a way to communicate or whatever, and I was just like, oh.
What's kind of meta.
Fuck me, mediator man.
Meta-narratively funny about that scene, of course, is only the people that had been part of the away party would, like, fully understand the significance of the two that stayed behind. So, like, Picard's just there, like, okay. And then later, someone had to go, yeah, the only one he took is his boner.
Yeah, I was actually surprised that, like, Riker didn't catch on and get really pissed at any point. Because I was really expecting a little explosion from him.
He usually gets kind of intimidated.
Who's
by
the
other
father,
men.
bitch?
Yeah.
So
Who's this Wyatt guy?
Just has to stand there with Riva and be like, do we need to have a fucking beard off, sunshine?
Riva would win.
Let's go.
Riva would definitely win.
So Riva communicated with his chorus telepathically. And Troy can communicate with people telepathically.
I said the same thing.
I feel like she's an empath. She's not a strict telepath.
She's had a conversation with Riker
and her mom.
Her
mom is related to her. Riker was her Imzadi.
But you would think that if they both were very, like, telepathically inclined, they should be able to, like, get some kind of HDMI adapter to make that shit work.
Okay, that's the problem, is his telepathy was PAL and hers was NTSC.
That's got to be it. I don't know. I think the writers just want to. I think this is one of the problems with a lot of Star Trek sometimes is that the writers only use the powers that the people have when it's convenient.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
well, it's like Spock.
Yeah,
he had a new superpower every other week in
yeah.
TOS, and then we never see them again.
There's no Vulcan on board that can mind meld the guy in talking.
There are. We've seen Vulcan
Solar
on board.
won't be on until next episode.
Yeah, but she's on the ship. It's not like they went back to Earth and picked up
well,
new
no,
Vulcans.
maybe they picked her up on some
Vulcan delivery.
Starbase.
There's 1,000 people on the ship. There's a Vulcan.
I
Somebody on that ship could have read the mind of Riva or had a conversation with him telepathically.
I mean, if I had to give it an actual sort of in-world explanation, he did say it took years for them to sort of learn how to communicate.
Yeah, they formed a bond.
Maybe it wasn't telepathy. Maybe it was like pheromonal communication. Maybe it was through a series of high-pitched micro-farts.
Maybe it was like the relationship between
he
Zephyr
felt the
Cochrane
pressure
and his
changes.
cloud or something. Farts.
Micro-farts.
What is a microfart?
It's when the anus vibrates at such a speed it's imperceptible to the human eye, and largely to the human nose.
Who's walking?
Did you say it if you had brown eyes?
Oh dear. That was a quick one.
Well,
They are very quick.
Yeah, you just said the speed is so fast you can't see it even if you got brown eyes.
But you can feel the pressure changes in the room through your skin.
Yeah, it shoots like a fucking pistol shrimp, I think. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. You go through lots of pants that way.
That's why he wears
That's why he wears
that
that
cloak.
flowing coat that he has to hold. And he's holding it because he's like...
He doesn't want to blow away with his microfarts. His pistol shrimp microfarts. Chris, if you take a fucking sentence of this out, I swear, you have to leave it in. You will, because you like fart jokes. It's okay if it's fart jokes.
So, what I found interesting about this episode was that...
Hold on.
You know, I feel like when people talk about TNG and why they love it, they just, it's about ideas and talking issues through and this and that. And I feel like this is sort of one of the first sort of more successful ones we've had since we started. You know, there were a few of these earlier, but they always...
At solving a problem, or...
Just all of it. The sort of the bigger ideas and talking things through and all that.
Yeah, they were successful except for when that fucking random alien blew away all of the mediators.
Well,
chorus.
right, but they didn't then resort to, well, we're just gonna start threatening people back.
Time to nuke it from orbit.
Yeah, it's that, what was it, General Order 24 or whatever?
Give him a Vulcan hello.
I feel like there were a few of those, I can't think of off the top of my head which ones they were, but I feel like they always had that sort of, there's always some kind of fatal season 1 flaw. This one, I think, was very successful. It felt, the only issue I had was, parts felt a little rushed here and there. I don't know how you could have fixed it. Like, there really wasn't a lot of fat on the episode that you could have trimmed.
There was there was a weird scene, a weird B-plot that popped up for one scene.
Oh, yeah, that could have gone.
And never got resolved.
And we'll never see again.
Which one?
Where
I have a note on that.
Pulaski offers to Geordi to replace
his eyes.
To replace his eyes, and he's like, I'll think about it. And she like smiles creepily to the camera, like breaking the fourth wall.
See, I forgot about that. So you could totally just cut
and then
that.
and then it never comes back up.
What's your note?
My note is LeVar Burton asked for that specifically because he was looking for a way to actually have his character use his eyes, because LeVar Burton, as a human being, has very expressive eyes. They're very pretty. He has very pretty eyes.
He does have pretty eyes.
He does. My crush for LeVar Burton is rising again. And
it's poking into my leg games, so I need you to bop.
And I think they were looking for a way to set up just in case they did go that route, but they ended up not doing it at all.
I mean, that would have been really... I feel like just having Geordi on the show, being someone with a accessibility accoutramentation
with
thing,
a need well, and especially after this seems like the most inappropriate episode to do it as well, because the whole thing is like Riva's like, it's good that you recognize that like everyone has something to offer regardless of, like, I'm deaf, you're blind, but we still have lots to like that. It felt so
Yeah,
why did you do this? Do it another episode.
Yeah, and they talked about it.
Here.
They talked about it earlier, like, does it bother you? And Jordan's like, why would it bother me?
No, I like who I am. Yeah. I really didn't. I didn't like that as part of this episode
If he had specifically turned Pulaski's offer down instead of being like, maybe, I never thought of it. It was never an option before.
Right, because he could have been like, I'm actually happy with who I am.
Yeah.
Like, I literally just talked about this with someone.
Yeah, my sight is different than yours. I have a different way of seeing.
They also put it. They also, I think,
on away team missions too.
That too.
I think they subverted that a little bit though by having it specifically acknowledge in dialogue that he's in constant pain because of it.
Oh,
was
yeah,
that
that's
mentioned
right.
this episode, or was
She
it
did.
just
She mentioned it.
Yeah, this is the second time they brought it up in
2
fucking
seasons.
30 episodes.
Yeah, it's one thing to be yourself and to embrace your disability, but it's another thing to be in constant pain because of it, and that if there's an option to fix that.
Yeah, like I think if they had even just left it at, her first thing, which was, I can give you dummy eyes that work like the visor, basically. Then you could have kind of avoided that. Why this episode of all things?
The visor is also such a cool prop.
It is.
They can't get rid of it because it's so great.
Yeah.
But I bet you, I never researched this, but I'm imagining it was difficult for LeVar Burton to see through.
Oh, almost certainly. Yeah.
I feel like
it probably was not great to wear around the set.
It was probably the opposite of the problem Adam West had in Batman.
He could see forever?
He saw too much of Robin.
No, he could only see straight ahead. He said in an interview once he could not, he had no peripheral vision.
Oh.
And he said any time going downstairs in that cowl was just a leap of faith.
How much of a leap of faith is that? I hope I remember how to go downstairs.
By knowing
Adam
where
West,
the step
though,
is.
Oh, may he rest in peace.
But, oh yeah.
Poor Adam West.
But no, knowing where the step was, he could have easily misstepped and taken a tumble.
Gone ass
Going
over
down
tea kettle.
Going on the bat pole is even harder.
Where's the ground gonna be?
Yeah. But I
I
imagine...
think Adam West did his own stunts.
At the very least, he
The
probably
pole
did
is easy.
But I imagine... Oh, Jesus. I imagine, LeVar Burton probably had trouble seeing straight ahead, but I bet could maybe kind of see above and below. Like, oh yeah, this is fucking useful.
Yeah, I'm sure, whenever he wasn't directly in the shot, the glasses were off.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, to be fair, it could have been worse. He could have actually seen through them like Geordi fucking sees through them.
That's true.
Never see what Brent Spiner looks like.
He's just on a fucking LSD trip.
But yeah, no, overall, like I said, I feel it was really quite good. It did, like I said, there were aspects of it that felt a little... they were kind of fighting his fact they only had so long.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I would have liked to have spent more time dealing with the aftermath of the loss of the chorus. I think that's one that if you would cut the whole awkward Geordi scene and lengthen that, because it feels like it was sort of, he had this extreme reaction, which was appropriate, but then his recovery felt a little hurried.
I think there's a reason for that, and that's because they rewrote that scene the day before shooting it, because originally the resolution, and I love the resolution they have where they're trying to teach how to communicate to the two warring tribes with Riva, is a really amazing way to get them peacified.
Yeah.
The original ending was that Riva would just learn to speak.
Oh,
which
God.
is the most ablest shit you can come up with.
Yeah, that would have undercut everything.
And the actor, Howie Seago, who's actually a deaf actor, basically said, no, can we change it to anything else? Because that's kind of offensive.
It is interesting I didn't know he was actually deaf. That's nice, because even to this day, you rarely have characters with disabilities portrayed by someone who actually has that disability.
Yeah. He came to Star Trek specifically with the idea of doing an episode with a deaf character.
God, now I just love him. I just love him more now.
Star Trek, though, they actually do most of the time go out of their way to find actors who have the whatever the disability is. I don't know if you know this, but Patrick Stewart is actually bald. That's not a bald cap. He actually has no hair.
And never has. I just really...
And they have him rise to the rank of captain of a spaceship. A bald man. It's incredible.
But yeah, I like this episode.
Yes.
Anyway. Yeah. But I agree. And actually, honestly, I sort of would have liked to have seen him in action on the planet on take 2. But we definitely didn't have enough time for that. And I also would have liked to have seen him balls deep in Troy.
I wonder if he survived the negotiations.
Oh, goodness, no.
Like, they probably showed right now. Man, those fucking weapons that they had,
Yeah,
like,
what the
fillet
hell?
you first,
that
and
effect
then
was
evaporate you?
crazy.
That
Yeah, that
caught
was
me
horrifying.
super off guard.
I
It was
think
like,
they realized after Conspiracy
Yes,
and
yeah.
they blew a fucking Remek's head to pieces. They were like, "Well, we got past that. Let's do more.
yeah, let's see what else we can get away with. That was some Mars Attack shit, only more gruesome.
It looked great though. I was
Yeah,
actually
good
really...
effect.
Well, again, I don't. But the problem is, I don't know if what we're watching is the original
It is.
effect.
No, they didn't redo...
Oh, it is?
Yeah, they
Oh,
didn't redo.
That's even more mind blowing, guys. This was January 1989. Fucking Emperor Snoke, or whatever the fuck his name is, from Star Wars isn't gonna age this well. Like, 29 years from now? Holy shit, 29 years, dude. We're old. Anyway, but what I'm saying is, Snoke's looked bad on day one. This shit looks great 29 years later.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, that's some impressive staying power.
Yeah, no, but it really was. That did. I'm just used to people on Star Trek either being vaporized or just falling over dead.
Yeah.
I'm not used to, as you put it, flayed first and then their skeleton disappears. Like, Jesus!
Yeah, no, it was gruesome.
At least it was quick. I don't think they'd even register the pain in time.
I'd hope not. Fuck. Actually, due to the nature of the weapon, it feels like 500 years.
Yeah, there's some weapon, I think it's in a future TNG episode, that someone describes as being like, oh, it's not just going to kill you, it's going to make you, it's going to be like the worst pain ever, and then it will kill you.
It'll be like the original version of City on the Edge of Forever, where you're just blowing up forever in a supernova.
Yeah.
It'll be like the Sarlacc pit.
I bet it's a Romulan weapon. It feels like something they'd have.
No, it was like, I think it was there was a guy
Ferengi.
that like,
Oh yeah, they're
there's
pretty.
a creepy guy that does mean things to Data.
Oh,
No!
that guy. Okay. I vaguely
Who would
remember
do
that episode.
anything bad to Data?
Grandpa.
This asshole.
Grandpa.
Yeah, that's true.
And he makes him call him Grandpa. We'll get to that, though.
So yeah, okay, how hard would it have been to teach Brent Spiner some sign language for like the 2 shots that he needed to know it?
Was he not actually doing sign language?
Well, no, I mean, I'm sure he was doing actual signs that he learned, but
I recognized thank you, but I don't know enough
it looked
signs.
like he was not keeping up with a conversation
At all.
So he did like 2 signs,
But
and
it was
then
also
stopped.
pointless because the guy can apparently, he can expertly read lips.
Yeah,
And he was looking at Picard, so Data was just there in the background, flailing for no reason.
Yeah.
I liked when, in the beginning, when they first meet, how Reva was like, you should direct your conversation to me. Like, I'm the one talking to you. I was like, yes!
But
that's
he was really kind of mean about it. He was like really like
Here was
angry
my
about
question. My question, because they meet up with Reva on his planet, and no one has known that he's deaf.
yeah.
And
Even though
he got some kind of peace treaty thing with the Klingons, which I think gets contradicted by a future episode, but whatever. So he's a known figure among the Federation.
Well, and his whole family has been deaf, it sounded like, the ruling class.
Yeah.
Also,
They didn't do their
They said
homework?
he negotiated peace treaties between the Federation and the Klingons.
Yeah.
That was Curzon Dax that did that. I don't know why they're giving.
That reminds me, though. I realized
Sorry.
Picard led the away mission, so he did know from the off. That's why he wasn't all flipped out. Riker didn't know that guy was the boner. Riker didn't go on the initial away mission to meet Reva, where they explained who they were. That's why Riker wasn't. Probably after they left, Picard went, by the way, we're number 1. That's the boner.
Even without knowing, though, that one of them was the boner, probably Riker would have just been butthurt because
totally,
she was having dinner with a guy.
He would have been even more butthurt if he'd realized that.
Well, Troy was pretty butthurt later that day. If you know what I mean.
Wow.
Fisting. We did fisting.
Oh, I thought you just were suggesting maybe there was anal sex. Don't ruin their beautiful love for me. I loved it.
You were really...
For me, they made love on a bed of rose petals, and it was just gorgeous.
Yeah,
there were angels singing and shit.
There was a lot of talk of, he's got to get his confidence back after the thing happened, and I'm going to be like, he can get his confidence back by begging Troy.
Yeah. Oh, but
that would help everyone.
That was the point we got sidetracked from. I feel like his sort of his anger though was justified.
Which anger?
His address me directly. Because probably his whole life he's dealt with people trying to talk to the chorus first.
Yeah, but I don't know. I feel like it's like a thing. Obviously they didn't know he was deaf, right?
But by this point they'd explained what was going on.
There was a point
I could
when
If
Or
somebody
not.
did that to me, if I was interacting with somebody for the first time and I addressed their translator or interpreter or whoever, whatever the context, and then they snapped at me, I'd be like, fuck you. You're an asshole. I made a mistake. You can correct me. You can be like, no, please address it to me. But if you're like, please address it to me!
Yeah, but he's also, Picard is, he's a starship captain. He's a diplomat. He should know better. I mean, it's even, like you said, to use the example of, even let's say where someone isn't deaf, let's say there's a language interpreter, you're still supposed to look at the person you're speaking to, and the interpreter kind of hovers off to the side to...
Yeah, but it's still... I'm saying, I think that the tone was an overreaction to the offense.
Well, and maybe that was a foreshadowing of his lack of confidence.
Yeah. I think he does not strike me as someone who would be a good conflict mediator based on the fact that he flipped out at a slight minor offense, inadvertent offense, and the second his posse disappears, he turns into a jerkwad and...
Well, that is one problem is we
if the three of us got shot in front of you, you wouldn't flip out a little, especially
I'd flip out, but he would still be, I don't know.
That's the thing, we don't get to see him in action is the one major sort of downside.
He's supposed to be the best of the best, right?
Yeah.
But I can see
in the briefing, he's like, I don't even have to hear anymore. I know the situation.
Yeah, which I mean, in his reasoning made sense. They've now been at war so long, it's just personal.
My opinion of this guy has gone down considerably since we started this conversation.
Oh, I love him.
Well, because here's the thing, right? He was so fucking cocky.
Mm-hmm.
Like, first of all, he
admitted he was cocky.
Well, yeah, at the end, I think this is a story about someone learning a little bit of humility at the cost of 3 other people's lives. Really, 4 people if you count the shooter.
I know.
Like, really, that's what it took for this guy to realize that his shit didn't stink?
Or that it did.
Or that it did.
Jim Kirk had to lose his best friend, his ship, murder a bunch of Klingons. Mitchell. And he still never, I think, by the time he croaks, learned that his shit didn't stink. I'm just saying, as far as...
His shit did
Yeah,
stink.
we keep fucking up the... He thought his shit didn't stink. He discovered that it did.
Right.
That was the undiscovered country.
See, I don't even think then he fully, he still cheated. Yeah, I think it would have been nice to maybe get to see the guy really in action in some way, because you're right, we only see him, understandably really lose his shit, because he didn't just lose, 3 friends, he lost,
He was bonded to them.
Yeah,
They had a bond.
It was a relationship that I don't think,
I got the impression they'd been around his whole life.
Probably, yeah, they'd probably all been raised
together.
together.
He was also, they also explained how the chorus was, some sort of slave class that had been
That was
their
vague
family
and weird.
that their family had been serving his family forever.
So,
and I actually thought that was weird too, because I feel like I actually commented on that.
You did.
I actually sort of expected the episode to go in a different way, because I expected them to be like, you should really learn to do this yourself. And actually,
Or treat us better, maybe.
now that I'm actually thinking about it, what's interesting about that is so as you know, I work in accessibility. And one of the key things about accessibility is trying to give the person with need the most independence they can have. So this concept of him having a chorus of 3 people to speak for him, it feels like, I don't know, it's completely out of line with what you would actually want to do for someone who is deaf. You would want to teach them ways to give them that confidence to cope with their own stuff, knowing sign language, knowing...
I mean, he does know sign language.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
They specify he can't write. Picard asks if he'll write something, and he doesn't know how to read and write.
Does he not? I thought he was just unwilling to deal with anything at that moment. It was.
I think
unclear.
I read that there was a cut.
that
a cut scene that explained that he couldn't read and write, and they kept that snippet of it when Picard asks him to.
And a lot of the time, because ASL syntax and the way it works is so different than English spoken language, a lot of the time deaf people can write, but it won't necessarily track exactly the way it would if it was spoken. But yeah, I really thought they were going to be well, you shouldn't be using slave labor just because you're deaf. That's what I kind of thought was going to happen.
Yeah, because that is kind of
that's
the implication, right? That he's he comes from some wealthy.
Well, that's the thing is
royal,
he comes from
royal
line.
inbred family.
Yeah.
I said that too. I was
'cause they-
like, because you're inbred. Yes,
Well,
it
they
makes
make,
perfect
they
sense.
make the comparison
To Hannibal, right?
Hanover.
Hanover?
Hannibal
And
was
be
the
having,
murderous.
just kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
He was
With,
a-
what was it,
general.
hemophilia? Yeah, Hannibal.
Hemophilia, yeah.
Oh, you're thinking of Hannibal Lecter.
Yes.
Oh, I was
thinking of
thinking
Hannibal the
I was
general.
thinking
Oh,
of
yeah, no, I went for
the one who
Lecter.
brought the elephants over the mountains or
Yeah,
whatever.
I did not think of that Hannibal.
That's what I thought
too.
he was talking about.
And of course,
Hannibals are there?
the Habsburg jaw.
Two.
I imagine, like, part of that comes from the fact, though, that he was from the ruling class, which, generally speaking, at least based on our society, which, let's be honest, all science fiction is based on in some way, shape, or form, the whole point of being the ruling class is to do as little as for yourself as realistically possible anyway. So in a weird way, it makes sense that the ruling class would be like, no, I'm not going to learn how to make myself more independent. I'm going to surround myself with a retinue of people to speak for me.
But then why have a job? He's got a job. Sort of,
Yeah,
right?
he's probably like. Here's probably what it is. Here's my prediction: that he's the younger brother, maybe, and it's like his.
And he's gonna go marry a movie star?
Well, then his parents are like, "Well, we got to give him something to do. You know what? Let's have him go be a conflict mediator." And the dad's like, he would suck at that because he's got that really short temper. He's always yelling at people, and they talk to his interpreter by accident. Well, he's like, "Okay, well, you know what we'll do? We'll just hire the 3 best conflict negotiators in the galaxy and teach them to be able to communicate with him. But then whenever they go on a mission, they'll just negotiate the treaty themselves."
Yikes.
Sounds good.
That's my prediction, and that's why he knew as soon as they got shot, there's no way he was going to be able to complete those negotiations. And then Troy talked him into it, made him feel guilty.
You're right, and now he's definitely going to die.
And now he's definitely going to die.
He's
'cause-
dead. That's too bad.
You think they'd have left, somebody.
Yeah, I was surprised that everybody was beamed up.
Yeah, just
at the end.
even just have an extra in a uniform, I mean, I feel like the original Enterprise, they were dropping people off left and right.
yeah.
They had what's-his-name stay with... Baylock. They had the other guy who stayed behind on Festival Planet to help them sort of rebuild in the wake of losing Landru. I just feel like that was not abnormal. It's like, all right, we're going to leave a couple people with you.
Or at least stick around until the negotiations start, hide in the brush or something, in case they need to extract him.
Plus, I mean, thing one is he's going to have to teach him how to communicate, but I mean, for that first night, who does he stay with? That in and of itself is a huge political issue.
Yeah.
There's only 2
I'll
sides.
just sleep under the table.
Seriously.
Had a big hole in the middle, so hopefully it doesn't rain.
But yeah, it would actually, I mean, I assume we don't, but it would be nice to have actually, if there was ever follow-up on this episode.
Oh, we never see him again.
I assume not. I don't know.
That
but
makes
I feel
me
like Jake
sad.
mentioned
I
it.
love Reva.
No, that's the end of this.
It's too bad.
The one issue I had, which has nothing to do with the episode, was just the whole time I kept almost hearing it as Reba. And I just imagined a
McIntyre?
version of this with Reba McIntyre.
But dressed as the Colonel.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. She's the Colonel right now.
Yeah.
The top of the episode, there was a point where Riker is just fingering his beard lovingly. And I'm like, wow, Riker is really enjoying that his character has a beard now. And then we get into Schizoid Man, and Data's got a beard that he gets to finger as well.
Yeah.
When I stroke it thusly.
Do I
thought
not
he
look
looked
more
okay with
intellectual?
No, it was a bad beard.
No, I like it.
Well, it just looked like Riker's beard.
I mean,
I would have liked it
No,
better
no,
if
but
he had
there's
his
a
own
fake
beard.
glued on beard.
Well, that's the problem. Someone just faking glued on, which I mean, that was obvious, but it wasn't even consistent. There was one. It was kind of patchy in places.
I
It was
didn't
like,
even notice that.
Yeah, no, there's.
You only see it through the reflection. Right?
Yeah, but no, there's one point where you can really tell that they had
Some
fucked up
people have
somehow.
naturally patchy beards.
Well,
when
right,
you say
but
they,
Data
you
wouldn't
mean
do that.
No, but I think that was kind of the joke of the whole thing, was that Data was doing the teenager, I can grow a mustache, so I'm
Yeah.
going to grow this really shitty mustache.
And it would make sense that you'd base it off Riker's because it was the beard he had the most experience with.
So I think the joke was that, Data, you think that having this beard is going to make you seem
like people.
like people.
Yeah, so we got Grandpa here.
Old Grandpa.
That was some good casting. They did a good job of getting a guy who just seemed affable enough, but when he turned creepy, you were just like, yeah, this doesn't seem weird. What was the point of that whole stupid near warp beam?
The what?
To kill time.
Yeah,
To pad the episode.
Well, but you think they could have just
I think a lot of it was also like we need ways to include more tension.
I guess, but it was
we have to go deal with a different thing and take Pulaski. You get a different doctor because we don't want to give Pulaski airtime.
So there's two reasons why I think that could have happened. They didn't have Pulaski couldn't shoot that week or something, so they had to be like, oh, we still need the doctor because it's specifically a medical mission.
Yeah.
But then I think the second, much more likely reason is because it wouldn't be realistic for Graves to be hitting on Pulaski because she looks like the Crypt Keeper.
Oh, that's terrible.
But he looked like the Crypt Keeper's grandfather, so she still would,
I mean, there's nothing wrong with Pulaski or Diana Muldaur.
Yeah, she's not unattractive. She's
But
actually really good looking.
But she's 1,000 years old.
She's like 50.
The way you could
She
describe
was
it...
in an episode of the original series, which means
Two.
she was in 2 episodes of the original, which means she's at least 80 by the time.
No, she's not.
It was 25 years before.
No, it was like 100 years. It's the next gen. It's the 100 years difference between TOS and
The more
TOS.
charitable way to put it would just be that we know that Grandpa likes him younger than she is.
We wanted a hot, sexy Vulcan, is what we wanted.
A hot, sexy Vulcan who doesn't act very well.
She acted like a
Neither
Vulcan.
That's the
neither
thing.
did the fucking...
She was terrible.
The assistant
The
was
ward.
awful. I was
No,
like,
but
ooh.
I've said this about Vulcans before. I think we mentioned this when we were talking about the movies, the
Hey, White
TOS
Cat.
movies. Is you can either act like a Vulcan or act badly and try to write it off as acting like a Vulcan.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's very easy to confuse Vulcan acting with bad acting.
I also kind of wondered...
There's a very, very fine line.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I think you have to be either a really good actor...
You either have to be Zachary Quinto or Leonard Nimoy.
I mean, I'd say the actors who have convincingly played Vulcans, in my opinion, are Leonard Nimoy, Mark Leonard, Zachary Quinto, Tim Russ...
Is Tim Russ Tuvok?
I think it's
Okay,
Quinto.
he's good.
And,
Is it Quinto?
I'm pretty sure it's
I thought it was
Quinto.
Quinto.
like Quintas.
I met him.
Did
And,
you?
And his dogs.
Oh,
What kind of dogs? Tell me about the
A
dogs.
big dog and a little dog. I don't remember exactly
That's
what kind of dogs
specific.
they were, but I
and
met them
Savick
after
there, whatever her name is. Not Robin
Kirstie
Wright.
Alley.
Kirstie Allen?
No, she's not. That wasn't Robin. What was that woman's name? Robin something.
Curtis.
Right? Robin Curtis. Yeah, Robin Wright's a completely different person.
But yeah, I saw him in the Glass Menagerie at the ART, and then afterwards I met him, and it was fantastic.
Who?
Zachary Quinto.
Oh, Quinto.
And his dogs.
I think Jolene Blalock did pretty well as well.
Yeah, I think she came into it eventually.
Yeah,
but,
well, I mean, that's how it is with it, you need a while to find your character's legs regardless of what the show is.
True.
I like Discovery's Sarek in spite of
Actually-
the fact that he's not very Mark Leonard-ish.
I'm going to take that back. I don't think Zachary Quinto... I mean, okay. This is tough, because I think that the writing for Spock in those films is atrocious and is not how Spock would act ever. Like, I think that is the thing that anything else you could point out as being stupid about those movies, and there's lots of things you can. The giant inflatable hand, the fucking lens flares, the fact that everything is wrong and they didn't understand Star Trek when they made them. The thing that pisses me off the most is the writing for the Spock character. So yeah, maybe Zachary Quinto actually does do a pretty good job with what he's given, but my God, they did not understand that character. Or the source material.
What are you talking about? Spock in the original series was always making out with women and bitch slapping
And
Kirk
punching
and
people and
Yeah.
screaming.
But back to this Vulcan.
This Vulcan.
Yeah,
I also-
Vulcan around.
I also kind of wonder if it was...
This is
that.
gone far enough.
I
that
also
was a
kind
good
of
high five.
Yeah.
wonder if maybe part of the impetus was they were hedging their bets if Pulaski didn't catch on.
It was
And...
early though. This is the fucking 6th episode. They haven't given her anything to do yet.
Right, well, and they're not saying they're not
She
going to
got
use her.
kidnapped by
Moriarty.
Yeah.
Stuffed her full of crap.
That's what I'm saying, though. They're just like...
Which is my favorite euphemism.
They're like, we don't know
for
the
sex.
reaction yet, but we're into this. Or if they were just like...
One of the episodes she was even in.
Yeah. Or they're just like, we don't have a regular Vulcan. Do we need one? And then somebody went, you have Data. And they went, oh, right. So we never see her again until the New Frontier books where she's a major character.
Yeah, I feel like later they'll replace the secondary doctor character. They'll have Ogawa.
Yeah.
It kind of becomes this. Well, she's a nurse, but same deal.
Yeah. Well, that's what it was. It was sort of an attempt to make a chapel,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, I think Ogawa. eventually
Does she
fills
lust
that
after
role.
Data?
No.
So this episode, though.
Was creepy.
Ira's a creep. I think, in classic, as you pointed out before, Ames, in classic fashion, Brent Spiner, again, like Leonard Nimoy before him, was clearly having a lot of fun getting to break character.
I didn't say this today, but okay.
No, but you've said in the past.
Okay.
Like you've said before, how like both of them, like when Spock got to be not Spock.
Yeah.
When Brent Spiner,
and they get to play their range.
They clearly have a lot of fun. Like when he was Lore, and when Nimoy was possessed by a glowy bulb and things like that.
This was very Return to Tomorrow.
Yeah,
It was very much. Yeah,
in some ways. Yeah.
And there was also Diana Muldaur.
Sargon.
Yeah.
Briefly, Diana Muldaur.
Yeah,
Wait,
but
is
she's
Return
barely
to
in it.
Tomorrow? I don't remember what that is.
That was the one where Sargon.
the big orbs that had the beings in them.
And one took over Kirk, one took over
Oh,
Spock.
They used
That
them
was
as
an
vessels.
interesting
They used
episode.
Pulaski as a
And
vessel.
Spock's was gonna like be like, fuck that, let's just keep these bodies and
Yeah.
betray these people.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
yeah.
Spock had
then
a lot
Spock hid out in Chapel's mind for a little while.
Mm-hmm. That was a good one. But it was very much in the spirit of Return to Tomorrow. So it's interesting that they didn't have they could have played up having Diana Muldaur on the show to make that connection. I noticed that Diana Muldaur is not in the opening credits. She's
a
special guest.
she's
Yeah.
credited as special guest star. So I wonder
Which
if
is
they
who, Pulaski?
yeah.
Oh.
I wonder if they figure that this was only going to be a short-term thing or what.
Maybe they were, because I think we did say at one point, it felt like with season 1, they should have had a regular chief engineer, but it felt like you didn't necessarily need a regular doctor because of how little they wrote for her to do, really.
Yeah, I mean, you do need... That's an important character
It
on
is,
the show.
but they weren't proving it.
Yeah.
in
Although,
the
I
writing.
in a sense, Discovery doesn't really have a regular doctor. The doctor that they, that's featured most on the show, I don't even think he was supposed to be the CMO. I think he was just a doctor on
Yeah,
the
it's a
ship.
little vague.
I don't think, but there certainly isn't a trifecta.
No.
Anyway.
Yeah, not Discovery.
Getting back.
I don't know.
So I feel like, as we're talking about doctors and the role of the doctor, like, I know they're trying to Pulaski fill the McCoy role of having, a fucking character.
Yeah.
But in this episode, it was very funny because I thought Graves was doing a better job being McCoy-like than Pulaski ever does.
That's
and
true.
that when he's talking with Data and he's kind of ribbing on him, like, oh, so you're like a fake thing, huh? Interesting. Let's have interesting banter about it.
Yeah. Well, I think what
and
helps
call me
is,
Grandpa.
Well, I think it helps that Graves, does take Data seriously as a being because of the nature of his work.
Did you notice that his planet's name is Graves World?
That's very TOS.
Party
Yeah.
time, excellent.
Sherman's planet.
Yeah, just like, he's there. He's the only one there.
Well,
What is-
him and his
Hot
Ward.
secretary.
yeah.
Well, I think that's the creepy thing. She was his ward first.
Yeah, that is creepy.
Wait, was she?
That was the
from, like,
idea.
young
Oh, I was just
age.
kidding when I said that she was his ward.
No, she was his ward.
Oh.
Yeah, her
Like, his
parents
father
killed-
died when she was wicked young.
There was something very Phantom of the Opera-y about it as well, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it, and that's it. If she was the ward, if he was the one who was, like, raising her and, like, acting as a father figure and then becoming, like, creepily obsessed with her.
There is
and,
actually,
like,
there is a lot of TOS in this one, too. Just, again, the lone person on a planet that's just theirs. It feels like, Requiem for Methuselah.
Yeah.
You know,
He's there with his, series of women he's trying to make for himself, but this time they're both actually real, and he's trying to turn them both into robots.
yeah. You know what else it reminded me of? What was the episode with the bad makeup from last season? It was on my bottom 3 list, and I forgot the name of it. Too short a season. It reminded me of that a little because, it's Professor What's-His-Nut aging backwards.
Lazarus? No. Just kidding, that wasn't his name.
Admiral Jameson.
Jameson, there it is.
And he tries to convince his hot wife, say, you should do it with me. I have enough meds for you too, or I could get them. Graves tries to say the same thing to the hot secretary, like, hey, you could have a body and live forever too. And she's like, I don't want that. No one wants that.
Yeah,
That's
this
a
is
terrible thing.
This is a more successful attempt at a similar idea.
Yeah, this
I think.
I have to say, I agree. Graves super creepy, but what an interesting character for the show.
Yeah, totally.
This I don't know, and it was very consistently written from the start of the episode to the end, which I liked. Is that his
and
cockiness.
it built very nicely.
Yeah.
Speaking
To
of
know
people,
him was to love him.
I mean, here's another example of someone who thinks their shit don't stink.
Yeah.
In that Graves, he thinks he's the smartest person that's ever lived. Oh yeah, I taught Soong everything he knows. And then with the ward stepdaughter, whatever she is to him, you can kind of in his mind, in his mind, he's the fucking greatest thing on the planet, and
he's the only thing on the planet.
Well,
it's Graves' world.
He is God's gift to the galaxy.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't help that everyone that does meet him is like, "Oh my God, you're Ira Graves."
Yeah.
They refer to him in fucking Pulaski's little medical log at the opening like the greatest human mind, not just in the Federation or the galaxy,
In the
universe.
Which is interesting because they've met the Traveler, so...
She wasn't there for that one.
That's true.
Did you say human mind?
But also
that,
the Traveler's
yes.
not human yet.
That's true.
Yeah.
He's from SETI Alpha...
6.
No, he's from Tau Alpha C.
Something like that, yeah.
This is such a Alpha 5.
Oh God!
SETI Alpha
Speaking
Dix.
of Pulaski's log, did anyone else notice the terrible blue screen trick they used in the opening?
Oh, when they were like standing in front of the... No.
So
I noticed something, but I
paying
can't remember what it
attention.
was.
Oh, when she came off the turbo lift.
when she goes onto it and then comes off, they wanted
But
it to be like.
I actually thought it looked really good. Like,
If you noticed it, then it wasn't that good.
Well, I saw it, I was like, oh, well, I'm glad they did it. I don't think it was, we're seeing it in HD. I think it would have worked a lot better.
So what exactly did they do?
It was a single shot of her going into the turbo lift from one deck, and then
opening onto another deck. Oh, that's cool.
Which, yeah, because normally they have to cut away first.
Yeah, of course.
But it was mostly successful, and it was even like a blink and you'll miss it kind of thing.
Yeah.
But there was a moment right when she stepped onto the turbo lift where it was obviously a blue screen effect, and that kind of shattered it. And again, it was that one shot where just for 1 second the effect blipped. And again, had I even just literally blinked at the right time, wouldn't have noticed.
I would say I have been actually really impressed with the compositing in the show.
Yeah,
this
it's
season.
been mostly good.
And like in the last episode, I think, it was when they were in the conference room. They were at Warp, and there was the stars out the window, and there was accurate reflections of the stars on the glass table from out the window.
Oh, I didn't notice that. You should have pointed out
That
that.
was well done.
That does sound cool.
Which
Good
is pretty hard to do.
Yeah, especially on
analog.
Yeah.
Well, they had to actually get the stars whipping by in the scene.
Yeah, they actually just had to build a version of the conference that could fly in space at warp.
And Elon Musk was like 20.
Yeah, no, it's super impressive.
And she's probably younger than that this time. But so I and going back to Ira Graves, so he thinks that he's God's gift to the universe.
Yeah.
And in his mind, I'm sure he imagines the only reason this beautiful woman doesn't want him is because of his failing old man body.
Yeah.
And that if only he could have a sexy young robot body with a giant cock, that she would be all over him. Because why wouldn't she? Obviously they were meant for each other.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Obviously.
By virtue of being the only two people on the planet and all.
Yeah.
When your options are limited,
That poor woman, like, how fucked up is she going to be? She's going to need years of therapy just because her only social example has been this one fucking egotistical maniac.
Yeah.
Like, she's going to need years to learn how to actually integrate with normal society.
Yeah, but hopefully we never have to see it, because she was terrible.
Yeah, no, she was not good.
Yeah, she was not.
I was just like,
she wasn't.
Do you want to try that again?
She wasn't quite that terraformer lady bad, but she was bad.
Oh God, that lady.
Which one?
From Home Soil.
With the little blinky lights.
Who taught us what terraforming was like.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
and
she was bad.
then wept uncontrollably at the thought of something or other.
Yeah. That's the thing, like, this blonde lady was so bad, I didn't even necessarily notice that Solar wasn't any good. I just thought she was being a Vulcan. So.
I think, really, it was just in Marina Sirtis' contract that they were required to hire worse actors than her.
Oh, no.
Who's that again?
Troy.
I really should learn their names one of these days.
She didn't have a ton to do this episode, which was stupid because she probably should have been able to pick up that there was something weird with Data.
She sort of did.
She did.
How can she read an android? I don't get that. I get that he's positronic, so he's half biological if the script calls for it sometimes. But it was still just like, he should just be a blank slate to her.
Well, that's actually, there's some interesting... There's some interesting, thoughts in this episode about the nature of Data that I was thinking about a lot.
Do tell.
So, the implication is
He
that
was Gunny Williams.
Data's
He wasn't getting there fast enough.
Data's brain, Data's personality quirks, his lack of emotion, his inability to speak like a person is all sort of like a limitation of his hardware. But I think what we learned from this episode is that it's actually all a software limitation. That his positronic brain evidently is fully capable of supporting a human consciousness complete with emotion and erections and things that empaths can pick up on. But just that the software that Soong wrote for him wasn't very good at it.
Right.
You know?
Well, and because when he did, as we saw, when he did write software that was closer to human, it went crazy.
Yeah. Well, also,
evil.
and also,
Crazy.
I mean, there's,
evil.
It hasn't come up yet, but eventually there's the concept of an emotion chip.
Yeah.
That Soong has created.
Is that like when you put a sound card into your computer?
That's basically how it's
an upgrade,
What kind of dip comes with that chip?
And like
Jizz.
but it's basically
No.
like.
He's already got
I
it.
always kind of thought of the emotion chip as being like a hardware upgrade, but it's probably just like a software upgrade, you know? Like,
Give him some more RAM.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of Data's emotions, did you notice that in the, what did they fucking call it? The psychotronic stability examination that they did on him, they had some pictures of Yar.
They had pictures of all kinds of shit. They had pictures of the Genesis wave.
Yep.
The Genesis effect.
Yeah, there were a couple different Genesis.
Yeah, they like just went into
pictures
their
in there.
video archive and pulled a bunch of shit.
But
Maybe
no, I
they
missed
shot Genesis up
I
his
missed
ass.
Yar.
He
Missed
became a real
Yar.
boy.
Maybe.
Yar's a nice touch.
I liked that.
Because they probably would have expected him to react a certain way to that image, which Graves wouldn't know her from Adam.
He'd still probably have one for her though.
Oh, well, sure, because he's a fucking horny old pervert. But, I mean,
He wouldn't
anything
have
with
the
a
love
pulse.
that Data has.
No, exactly. I mean, he was checking out that random blue shirt that went by at one point. Like,
I really loved Brent Spiner's acting in this episode.
Yeah,
it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, no.
Just watching him check out a woman walking by, I was like, that's hilarious.
I'm going to go ahead and say that the transporter room funeral scene is perhaps the best scene in the Next Generation so far. Data's eulogy of Graves. Just
why?
The writing and performance and delivery, and that's, I don't know, it was just really, I thought it was excellent.
I found it went long enough that it was too long, but not long enough that it was funny again. So for me, it was just kind of like painful.
Oh, really? See, I think that was the intention, right? Is that it went on way too long, and that was why it was funny. At least that's how I.
For me, I think it needed to have been a little longer for it to have been back to funny. I guess, I don't know.
Since when did they teleport you in your torpedo into space instead of torpedoing you?
Well, he wasn't military.
Fine.
Also, like,
And why are they going to teleport the torpedo? Just shoot him out there. You didn't need the torpedo. Just let him float around.
and why was he dressed like an old English king?
Like Jacob Marley from a really bad community theater.
Well, they did say
Christmas
that
Carol.
it was his wishes, so maybe that was part of it.
That's
Just
true.
wrap me in silver gauze.
Well,
And let Data talk about me for 25 minutes.
Yeah, you know what's interesting is that. So I mentioned, I think last week, that the title of this episode is taken from. I'm assuming. Well, maybe it has another connotation as well, but it's the same title as an episode of The Prisoner.
Yes, there's a reason for that.
And I don't know, for some reason, so the star of The Prisoner,
Patrick McGowan.
Patrick McGowan, played Longshanks in Braveheart.
I was gonna say Heathcliff.
And like I was looking at Ira Graves in the torpedo.
West
I was
Side
like,
Story.
it reminded me,
yes.
like, I don't know, I had like this weird like free association thing where I went from, oh, he looks like an old English king. He looks like Longshanks. Patrick McGowan, the Schizoid Man. It was like a weird free association.
It would have been an even closer association because they originally wanted Patrick McGowan to play this role.
Oh, to play Graves?
Yeah, and that's why they titled it The Schizoid Man.
Was
So
he
it's like
a
how
better-looking man?
Yeah.
I can't picture him. For some reason, I'm only picturing Captain Pike instead of Patrick McGowan.
Patrick McGowan's a pretty handsome guy.
I thought you were gonna say that you couldn't imagine someone being less attractive than the guy that played Ira Graves.
You've seen Patrick McGowan. He is a recurring Columbo murderer.
Patrick McGowan he was an actor. He was he created his famous shows were The Prisoner and the
Secret Agent Man.
and Secret Agent Man or Danger Man as it was called in the UK. And he was like a Bond like figure.
He was the guy... Okay, the one from Columbo I can remember off the top of my head he was the commandant of that military academy. Remember that one? Where they were, like, making...
The one where he killed somebody and then he, like, gaslights a woman for a while?
No, that was the guy who was the lead in Green Acres.
Green Acres is the place to be.
Let's take it back so we don't have to use any of this because this was boring.
So basically, though, to get back to your point, Ames, they named the episode The Schizoid Man for the same reason they named it Shaka-Ree in Star Trek V.
For Sean Connery, yep.
Nice.
So just the actor that they want to be in the movie or the TV show.
They try to, like, lure them in some weird way.
And they keep saying, fuck off.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what they said, but they could have just been busy. Anyway, I also read about this episode that the original story was an attempt to explore the dead colonists from Data lore and their memories that were still in Data's head. And I guess there was an original storyline in which there would have been two memories in his head from two different men who were in a love triangle with a particular woman who visited. And then the woman he would meet in this episode. And then both sides of those two different personalities would perk up and be like, the woman, Data's having, like, different kinds of memories and stuff. Huh. And they came up with this episode instead of any of that.
I mean, I can see the thread, at least. Sometimes you're like, oh, here was the original episode, and you're like, how did we get here?
How did we get from A to B?
But I can see how we got
Apartheid.
Well, there was a writer's strike, you see.
Like, I don't know if this is from A to B, but I can see how we got from A to, like, F with this one, you know? Now, there's a bad episode, but, you know, like, it's a longer chain, but I think I can kind of follow it. Yeah, that in a way, though, I'm kind of glad they didn't go with that, just because that whole the colonists' knowledge stroke memories thing was so weird. I'm kind of glad that just kind of like, let's pretend we never said that.
Well, if you can fix it and make it less weird, I just don't trust them to do it.
Yeah, no, exactly.
It's season 2. We don't have good writers yet.
Not yet. We're getting there. Things are better.
I miss Guinan. Where's Guinan?
She pops up now and again.
I know, I want her back, though.
There's an interesting... We should see if we can dig this up. There was a memo that Patrick Stewart sent to Gene Roddenberry and other producers on the show where he was like, here's some suggestions for the show. Here's like some things I don't like about the show, and here's something I think we should be doing. And one of the things...
More Wesley.
Well, one of the things he put in there was more Guinan because, like... You know, we don't, because I guess Whoopi was only contracted to do a couple episodes per season. So, like, he's like, we should really use that character because it's an interesting character and people like it. We should see if we can dig that up. And like, one of the comments...
They told Patrick to go fuck himself.
And, like, I did like, a nerd thing and, like, pointed, like, did the research, was that in his memo, he's like, they're always going on away missions and they're always bringing their phasers with them. And yet we never see do they train with their phasers? Like do they train
target practice
in
the holodeck?
So he suggested that there should be a shooting range on the ship where they go and practice their phasering. And
was he like pro gun ownership or just pro gun safety?
I think he was just like, we should, if they're going to be using these weapons, they should be trained on them. We should see that. And I don't know. Yeah, and we should pick it up and put it on the Facebook or something because it was interesting. And then I based on the date of the memo, I think like the next episode that aired, or like maybe like an episode that aired like 2 weeks later, featured a gun range, featured the Enterprise like
training range.
And I was like, wow, they really took his fucking suggestion seriously. Jesus.
Not to pay more for extra Whoopi, but
right.
Which I mean, I guess kind of makes sense.
You should never pay for Whoopi.
Well, I was about to say, I feel like
unless you're Ira Graves, maybe.
Because I feel like that was sort of a point where she was doing quite well for herself, so she probably...
Yeah, Sister Act was just on the horizon at that point, right?
I read somewhere, or maybe it was something that one of you said on this show, so if it is, stop me, that she approached LeVar Burton about being, like, that's how, like, she wanted to be on the show, and she...
Oh, okay.
I read something like this. I don't know where that interview is now.
Yeah. So, well, evidently, the way she ended up on the show in the first place is she knew LeVar Burton and was like, hey, I would really like to be on Star Trek. Can you talk to somebody? So LeVar Burton said that to the producers, and they thought, oh, well, that's a joke. I mean, she's a big movie star. She's a comedian. Like, there's no reason why she would want to be on our show. And then, like, she went back. She's like, no, I actually want to be on your show because growing up, she was a huge Star Trek fan. And like Nichelle Nichols was like one of her idols and one of the reasons why she went into show business in the first place.
Oh, that's an awesome story.
Yeah. So she like was like, I'm doing this because it's been my dream to be on Star Trek since I was a kid.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was a cool story.
No, it is. I'm not gonna lie. I was waiting for that stuff about the memo to be a setup for tossed salad and scrambled eggs. I was braced for it.
No, it's real. I was being serious.
Like, I was like, all right, the Whoopi thing's real. And you're like, and also I was like, oh, here it comes. It's going to be something about the canteen. No? Okay.
We just watched the episode where they help Martin write his, like, Frank Sinatra hit.
Oh, no.
It was so cute.
It is now my headcanon that Martin is actually the writer of tossed salad and scrambled eggs.
Nice.
Yeah, that's right. I have a headcanon for Frasier now, because that's what a fucking nerd I am.
Since we're talking about Frasier anyway, we should
acknowledge, since our last recording, the actor that played Martin is...
what was his name?
John Mahoney.
John Mahoney passed away.
And he was so young.
Yeah,
Makes
it
me
was
so sad.
77, which is crazy because like that show was what, early like 92, 93.
It was,
probably?
wasn't it like 1990 to like 2002? It was on for like 12
it ran a long
years.
time, but it was like
seasons,
early 90s.
Yeah.
And he looked like that man did not age.
No,
No.
he
Like,
looked basically the same
yeah, like, he
throughout.
Started out looking old and ended looking
he
the same.
fast forwarded. So he
I
must have been in his
thought he was
early
cute
50s.
when I was young.
Yeah, no,
Is that
so I
weird?
actually-
I was weirdly attracted to Martin as a
I
young lady.
I looked it up when we first started watching the show.
Don't judge me,
Into
Ames.
those silver foxes, Caitlin?
And yeah, in reality, unless he like their actual ages, John Mahoney and
Frasier's
Kelsey
Grammer.
like
Chelsea Grammer.
I think John Mahoney was actually only like maybe 16 years older than Kelsey Grammer.
Yeah,
Or something like that. So
and Kelsey Grammer did age in that show.
Dude,
he went downhill.
But yeah, no, I actually, as you may have seen, listeners, I did share the passing of John Mahoney on the Facebook because it just felt appropriate because we've referenced that song so much at this stage.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I think like the last 2 episodes of ours probably that are coming out, are gonna have been released after his death.
Yeah.
So
one of them like
hopefully
a couple
people
days
don't
later.
think we were just being incredibly tasteless and like.
Yeah, no.
Especially knowing you.
These are recorded.
We would
often
never be
quite far in advance.
Program.
Well, now that they know, like 2 or 3 weeks after the fact,
Yeah.
they can look back and realize,
Okay. Yeah.
No, it's too late. We've already lost them.
Yeah, they're like,
how dare you joke about
How
John
dare
Mahoney?
you mention Frasier when the man just died?
So yeah, this was a good episode, but I don't have a ton to say about it, unfortunately.
Exactly, yeah. Because I think some of it is because it was very streamlined in the story. Like it didn't go out on a zillion tangents, and it had the story, and we're like, yep, this is Return to Tomorrow / Requiem for Methuselah / a little bit of some other shows
/ really fucking creepy.
Yeah, I guess if we were.
I thought Data was going to have an in on that woman, but that got weird.
Glad that didn't happen.
Thought he was gonna do what?
Have an in on the woman.
Oh.
But yeah, I the only sort of thing is like, and I don't know enough about this, but one thing that's always kind of fascinated me as an idea, and that is maybe just too deep of a conversation to have, or something I certainly don't have the right facts to have, is the idea of transferring one's consciousness into a computer. Which is something people talk about as hopefully being sort of this pie-in-the-sky dream for future immortality for all of us. So we can, as the good doctor said, see the end of time. Yay.
Supernova death forever.
Yeah. But, like, this is predicated on somehow tricking the consciousness into thinking it's continuing. Right? Because, like, in reality...
Well, yeah, he hasn't, like, injected his soul into it.
Well, they even said that there's no consciousness. There's just the
no, that was at the end.
Yeah, the very end.
But
I'm even talking when he's in Data. When he's still, like... If you could somehow put your mind into a mechanical body.
Yeah, he specifically remembers putting the mind into Data, too.
And I don't doubt that you could make the copy of your brain remember the transition process. But in reality, it seems like, and this is almost a variant on the whole, does the transporter kill you thing? But in reality, you, fleshy you, it's not your literal whole... They're basically making a copy of your brain and putting it into this new body. And even if they kill the flesh you at the same time, there is a version of you that just dies.
Well,
right?
I don't even think... I think it's worse than that. I think... Because so Data was turned off during the process. Somebody had to turn Data back on.
His butt.
Right? He doesn't turn back on his own. Somebody had to switch him back on. I'm pretty sure what happened is Graves turned Data off, downloaded his brain into Data, turned Data back on, and then Data murdered him. Well, as Graves. Graves in Data's body.
It's a little like that magician movie. What was that movie?
The Prestige.
The Prestige.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Prestige.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what happened. I'm pretty sure Graves, not
That didn't
like
even occur to
like
me.
flesh and bone Graves was a willing murder victim.
Yeah.
He did it knowing that he was going to do that, but he knew okay, I'm going to download my brain, then I'll be in there and in here, and then the me that's in there is going to kill the me that's in here, and that's just how it'll be.
Which adds a whole extra twist to his claim that the doctor died in his arms.
Oh,
yeah, there you go.
Shit.
That's how, because that was something that occurred to me, because I'm like, what actually happened? I'm like, no, wait.
I didn't even think of that.
Somebody had to turn Data on.
It actually did occur to me that I didn't understand how he would have got rebooted, but I never took it to that conclusion.
That's
where I go with it.
I just kind of let it go. I was like, well, guess we'll never know.
No,
Sure, it's not something awful.
Wait, but first you have to touch dicks.
that's true.
With
Oh,
yourself.
you know
That's
that,
where his button is.
Yeah, you know that Graves when he first woke up, he's like, well, listen, before I kill myself,
Let me wank myself off.
But yeah, I've always been fascinated by that idea of
Touching dicks.
from at least one perspective, you're still just dying.
yeah,
And maybe you can kind of fool the mind in a way, but it's a weird thought, and I don't think it's something that a lot of these people I don't know. It's weird because if you do believe in the soul, then you are believing that somehow the soul is tied in with your neurons and whatever it is that is copyable to
Engrams.
hardware. And if you don't believe in the soul, then it's just well, no, I'm deleting a version of myself ultimately.
Well, I believe in the soul, but I don't necessarily believe it's something you could download into a computer.
Well, but here's the thing. There's also, and we'll get to this. I mean, there's going to be an episode eventually. It's not for a while.
Spoilers.
Don't.
I'm not going to spoil it, but I'm just saying there's going to be an episode where we will actually confront the issue of what happens to the person that was on the receiving end of being transported up.
Mm.
You know?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Tuvix.
Well, there's that type of stuff. I mean, transporter accidents are a thing. And then there's also this concept that, there's a transport buffer. That's always been an interesting thing to me. That's a beam is not just A to B. It's A to transport buffer.
Yeah.
Which is apparently just a hard drive.
Yeah.
To B. Right? Mm-hmm. There's an intermediary place where you go. And it's actually possible to store.
Is that Voyager episode we just watched?
Yeah.
Yes.
And you actually specifically asked me during the episode.
Well, I wasn't paying attention.
Could somebody hide in the transport buffer? And I'm like, that's the plot of the episode we've just watched.
No, that's the plot of the episode you watched. I walked in about halfway through and started watching.
No, you were sitting there the whole time.
No, but
you're like a child walking in the middle of a movie.
Yes. I don't pay attention.
Big Lebowski reference.
Donnie, you're way out of your league.
Yeah, you're out of your element.
You're out of your element.
But yeah, the short version is there's a lot of issues with continuity of consciousness in Star Trek.
Yeah, yeah.
And any kind of speculative fiction that involves the transference of thoughts into a computer or mechanical body or whatever. Well, I think it's time.
Let me jake us out here. So, that, I think, just about does it for these two episodes. I think take a straw poll of the room. Good week, I'd say.
Yeah, it was good.
Good week for beards.
Good week for beards. Good week for creeps. Good week for...
Creeps with beards.
People that think their shit don't stink. And, yeah.
People that think their beards don't
stink. Not such a great week for the chorus of translators.
And
they got flayed and evaporated.
Not a good week for Wesley either. Because he was disrespected often.
That was fine.
I liked it. I just mean that.
Yeah, he needs to be taken down a peg before he winds up like Graves or Remus.
He thinks his shit don't stink.
Yeah.
Wesley.
I mean, his actually doesn't though. So.
He has it beamed out into space, so no one has to smell it.
That's right.
That was his latest science experiment.
Well, next week we're going to be doing a couple more episodes.
Shocking.
Of Star Trek. Yeah.
That'll be a change.
In a twist, we're going to do another episode.
Well, sometimes we say next week we're going to do this, and then the following week we do something else.
Yeah, we suddenly have a surprise 10 forward.
We got to do one of those soon.
Well, next week we won't be. We'll be doing...
How do you know?
I don't know. Maybe something will come up. Next week, our episodes are going to be TNG Season 2 episodes, Unnatural Selection. That's unnatural selection, as contrary to natural selection, as popularized by
Darwin.
Naturalist
Charles
Charwin.
And Gnarls Barkley.
Lieutenant Barkley popularized unnatural selection. The other episode is A Matter of Homer.
Homer Simpson?
Homer. No, for Homer from the Iliad.
A Matter of Honor?
Oh, honor. I'm sorry. I thought that said Homer. No, I didn't actually think it said Homer. I
don't say.
I knew what it said. No, A Matter of Honor and Unnatural Selection. That's what we'll be talking about next week. But this week we have talked about some other episodes. Yeah. And we're done. And we're done talking about those episodes.
Where can you find us online, Jake?
We're on the internet.
SoundCloud.
Sign on to your internet provider. We are on Facebook.com. Search for A Star to Steer Her By. That is our Facebook book.
And some of you have already found us there. We've got some likes.
Yeah, give us a thumbs up. Is it still a thumbs up to
it
like?
Is.
Or is it a
Yes.
Okay, give us a thumbs up. Thumbs up, man.
Yeah.
It's easy. We don't spam. We put, interesting shit out there on the Facebook, articles, pictures, tunes. And here's the thing, you'll hear us talking about something on the show. Sometimes we'll post a link to it.
Sometimes we'll forget entirely and never post it.
Yeah.
That's true. That's also true.
But if we didn't, and there's something you wanted, you could message us on Facebook and be like, hey, you mentioned some bullshit last week that you never followed up on, and we'd like to see it.
Yeah. And if you can't find us on Facebook, you can find us on Twitter.com.
Is that like a mix of Twitter and Foodler? Do you
tweet
140 characters of your order and hope you
I
get the right thing
I
from
heard Graves
somewhere?
is a twiddler.
Oh, more like a diddler.
Hey, that was a joke.
Yucca.
So Twitter.com, our name there is SSHB Podcast. We're also SSHB Podcast on Tumblr.
Mm-hmm.
On Grindr.com.
It's Tumblr.
I know.
Right?
Yes.
Grindr is a dating app.
Is that the one that's spelled without an E?
It
is.
is.
Like Grindr, actually.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Interesting. What's that all about?
I don't know. Internet.
I don't know. Internet. Let's get the shit.
Damn kids.
No, we're not on Reddit. We're on other things, though. SoundCloud.
Yeah.
We're on SoundCloud.
Star to Steer Her By.
iTunes.
That's our main place. iTunes.com/Apple. Google, A Star to Steer Her By. Get us. Subscribe. We have an RSS feed.
I really thought eventually you'd get better at these outros.
He is getting better at them. What are you talking about? He's like a fucking artist. Do you see what he does?
The maestro is at work here.
He's like some kind of Andy Kaufman disaster. It's amazing.
The outros are longer than the show synopses now.
We get
well, that's only because I'm also getting better.
Listen,
at
the only reason I still do this is because nobody's told me to stop.
Jake, stop.
No, I mean the fans. The fans love it. The fans tune in for this shit. They love to hear what the new thing is. Apple
could SoundCloud and iTunes.com/Apple.
It's not the new thing. You do this every week.
Yeah, but it's always a little different. It's never the same.
It's the same SoundCloud every week.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I do bust out SoundCloud quite a bit.
It's because for a while I think you actually thought that's what it was.
All right, I will do a completely credulous one. Well, thank you. You've been listening to A Star to Steer Her By. You can find us online at A Star to Steer Her By on... Fuck! I can't do a credulous one.
That was your smooth jazz
Say your
voice.
name.
All right. Fuck it. My name is Jake.
This has been Chris.
This has been Ames.
And this is always Caitlin.
I'm not gonna lie. I was waiting for that stuff about the memo to be a setup for tossed salad and scrambled eggs. I was braced for it.
No, it's real. I was being serious.
I was like, all right, the whoopee thing's real. And you're like, and also I was like, oh, here it comes. It's gonna be something about the canteen. No? Okay.
Speaking of which, though, I do think we have to deconstruct something.
Okay.
Because I've been thinking about this since the last couple of weeks when we were doing the tossed salad and scrambled egg. So I think I made a mistake because I said I don't think the song makes a lot of sense. But the more I've been thinking about it and the more it's been playing over in my head, I think the song actually does make some amount of sense.
Okay.
So it's not going to take very long. Well, if you can throw it in at the end if you want, but I want to get this out. I want to get this on the record that I have deciphered tossed salad and scrambled eggs.
Okay.
So here we go. Hey, baby, that's just a hook. That doesn't matter. So,
Yeah, no.
I hear the blues a callin'. he's a call-in radio show host.
Yep.
And he's a psychiatrist, so he's a therapist. So they're calling in. The people with the blues, sad people, I hear the blues are calling. Toss salad and scrambled eggs. Now that first just sounds a little weird. Like, what the fuck's this? Well, they're crazy. They're crazy people. They toss salad. They're all mixed up. Toss salad and scrambled eggs. They're mixed up. Sure. These people, they're all mixed up. Their emotions, they're all mixed up. Toss salad and scrambled eggs and mixed emotions, you know? So I hear the blues are calling. Toss salad and scrambled eggs.
And maybe I feel a bit confused.
And maybe I feel a bit confused because, you know, I might be a little crazy myself. You know, I might have some emotional problems.
But I've got you pegged.
But I've got you pegged. I got the people. I can solve the problems for the people on the phone.
Yeah.
Even though I'm a little bit confused.
But I don't know what to do with those tossed salad and scrambled eggs.
They're calling again. They keep calling back. They never stop.
And then Goodnight Seattle. That's a sign off or whatever.
That's where yeah.
Hot shit.
I have solved tossed salad and scrambled, and I think I have earned the right to sing it. Hey baby, I hear the blues are calling, tossed salad and scrambled egg.
Okay, but what about the quite stylish? What the fuck is that about?
I think
he just thinks
that
he's
was
quite
stylish. That was a
stylish.
flourish. That was thrown in there.
That does feel very Frasier.
Yeah.
We just watched the episode where his
It feels
dad...
more Niles than Frasier, honestly.